our parent workshop. I'm really delighted to welcome all of our parents back into school. We split it into two, purely for the fact that we were unsure of the COVID guidance at the time, so I'm really appreciative that you could make it this afternoon, and for those parents that also came this morning. But it's a really nice size in the classroom, and you'll be able to get around the classroom more freely because we've got a nice size this afternoon. So we want to talk to you this afternoon about some of our initiatives that we've introduced in school this academic year to make improvements to BGL. We're constantly striving for the best for our children that come to Brindle Gregson Lane, and we're constantly evaluating our practices and trying to make improvements for the best interests of the children. And we've talked to you in the autumn term about our relationship and behaviour policy. And this afternoon I want to talk to you about our feedback and marking policy and also our mental health approach that we've adopted in school from this academic year. So if we move on to our feedback and marking, first of all, what do we actually want to achieve for our children who attend at BGL? Well, we want our feedback and marking to improve their learning, to take them that step further with their learning. We want them to take responsibility for their own learning and play that active role in the learning process. We want them to receive the feedback in the moment and not have to wait until the next day. And sometimes that was even in the next week. For example, if we were teaching history once a week, they'd have to wait a full week for that feedback. And I don't know about your children, but my children come home and they cannot remember what they've done in the morning of the same day, let alone in a week's time. So that in the moment was really important to us to further the children's learning. And for staff, I wanted staff to feel empowered and to know that their feedback was having more of an impact on the children in which they teach. So how have we gone about this change? Well, nothing is left to chance at BGL. Everything we do moving forward is going to be based on educational research. We are trying things out before we roll it out throughout the whole of school. But not only that, we're looking at the research that isn't new research, it spans over 15, 20 years. So we've looked at that research, we've trialled it in school, and it's had a positive impact with the proven results. We now look at corrections to work upon in the moment, and feedback is given by the teachers as well as the teaching assistants. They go around with green and pink pens and they mark the children's work. They'll highlight that green for good, any elements of the children's work which we want to celebrate and reinforce to them that that's what we want to see in the learning. If there's anything that we want them to think about, then we will highlight it in pink, and we say to the children that it's pink for think. It's something that we want you to think about, maybe to self-correct or maybe to improve even further. And if children receive the pink on their work, they have been taught to just have a go and self-correct it themselves. They'll automatically now pick up a purple pen and they'll have a go at self-correcting that work. They don't have to wait until the next day for this feedback. It happens there and then, whilst the learning is fresh in their minds. And that is our way of ensuring that it has the impact on their progress within the lesson. And we've got a short video for you to watch, just to give you a snapshot of what that may look like in Year 4.
Everybody looking this way. What I'd like you to do now, using the computers, is try to improve those well-chosen adjectives. So if you've got some pink already highlighted in your book, that means we need to either check for spelling accuracy, or it might be that you can now find an improved choice of words. So try to use the thesaurus to up-level those vocabulary choices that we made. Okay? So use the computers and see if you can get on with some improvements to what we did earlier.
Let's have a look what we've got. Oh, Luke Vicious dog. Oh, right, on that one I'm going to set you to bigger chosen sentences. So I'll look for sentences and sources. There. And I want you to try and see if you can look through that sentence
mindset in all of our children. We don't want them to have a fixed mindset where they believe that they can't achieve. Every child can achieve in every subject area. So by giving them the verbal feedback and highlighting in pink, we are teaching the children to have a look at their work and think of ways of improving and having that growth mindset, that have-a-go attitude. And we don't want to directly point out the mistakes to the children. We want the hard work to come from the children themselves. That will help make the learning stick. Our new approach encourages the children to do that real hard thinking for themselves rather than being reliant on the adults in the room. The mistakes are celebrated, and at BGL we call them marvellous mistakes. We want the children to understand that these are an important part of the learning process, and as such we display them and use them as teaching points in the classrooms. They help develop that resilience in the children, as well as help them to understand that making mistakes is a vital part of that learning process. And we've got another video just to demonstrate that for you.
Okay, Year 2, so we're going to have a look now at some wonderful things in this writing and look for some marvellous mistakes. So I'm really pleased how this person has started their sentence with if, and then when we read it, we have a look for a marvellous mistake, and here we can see it with a pink highlighter. So if the fire didn't stop, it would not stop burning. What's this person trying to do here? Something that we've learned about in Year 2. What are they trying to do? Yeah?
They try to put two words together.
Yeah, they tried to join the word did and not together to form a contraction. But what's the marvellous mistake that they just missed out? Just forgot to put it in.
The apostrophe.
The apostrophe, super. And what happens to this letter here, the E? Does that need to be there? No. So what I'd like you to do now is use this person's marvellous mistake to look for contractions in your writing that you may have missed out that apostrophe. Okay, off you go.
Now, instead of giving children lengthy comments in their books, which sometimes the younger children find it tricky to read on their own, we have whole class feedback sheets, and the teacher will have a feedback sheet for every lesson. They'll have it open on the desk, and there'll be like a busy bee going around all the children and looking at their work and highlighting in pink and then in green. They'll be going back to this feedback sheet constantly and making notes about the children's learning. And that's so, at the end of the day, they can have a look at the lesson for the next day and tweak it and bespoke it so that we're constantly meeting the needs of the children in school. And we've got an example here of how it works in action.
I would like to look at the pinks that Miss Lisa has identified for Joe. So we've got here a few pinks. And I've picked this whole section, so could you talk to somebody next to you? What are the pinks for pink that I would like Joe to think about? And can you go at redrafting the section with your purple pen, with your learning partner? Think about redrafting a section, thinking about what makes, how we can create dialogue to advance the action.
So there, Mrs. Issa has used her feedback sheet and noticed that quite a lot of children were making the same mistake. She's put a child's work under the visualiser and she's started the next lesson off addressing and identifying those errors so that children can then go and self-correct and improve their own work. We use visualiser stops regularly throughout the lesson. Each class now has a visualiser, and that allows us to put the children's work underneath and display it on a larger scale so that everyone can see it and everyone can take part in providing that feedback. Teachers may use this to highlight something that a child's done particularly well, or highlight a marvellous mistake or misconception that the whole class can learn from. And we've got another video to demonstrate that.
And right, Year 3, pens down please. I have a book I would like to show. I will not name names, it's a no doubt. So eyes this way. Oh, it's on the visualize it. So here, for us to look at is the leaves. Now over there on the board is our toolkit. So remember the 5 focuses we've got for our lesson today. I'm going to read it, and we're going to discuss what the things are really about. And if there's anything actually, she can even improve even further. Are you ready? Pay attention, because we're going to be asking you to find the toolkit in it. So 15 minutes later, the 2 boys approached the forgotten canal. What she used in that first sentence. From our toolkit, you can remember, but listen to your partner. What features she used. Okay, hands up, sentence. Is it a preposition? What part of that sentence is preposition? Arrive or approach the forgotten canal. Next sentence. Quietly, they peered in. The water was murky, boggy, and black. They saw 5 plungers at the bottom, seniors' fake teeth, and half a tube toothbrush. Tom was the oldest out of the 2. He had a unibrow and a scar from brain surgery. In the water, something twitched. Now, the whole purpose of this was to build suspense. Has Lillian done that? Has she used some of our success criteria? Let's go through. So we've got preposition. So in here, she has also used an expanded noun phrase. I'm going to give you a clue where it could be, starting from the sentence you have. Can anyone find the expanded noun phrase in this sentence? What have you done? Quick read. Good. With a scarf and Rachel Rick expanded the sentence and added more detail. Now, has everyone used features like this in their answer? Yeah. Right. So our task, including Lillian's task, is to go back to our books after seeing a really good example and see if we've missed anything. You may have missed an empty word sentence, you may have missed feelings, you may have missed figurative language, which is our language, you may have missed expanding noun phrases or preposition. I want you all to show me the star of our lesson. I want you to read through it, see if you can develop what other sentences have you missed. Have you got it? Lillian.
So the children are very used to getting those purple pens and responding to the teaching input that's been given using another child's piece of work. In our maths, our approach for our new feedback and marking is that we actually, rather than leave the maths books until the end of the lesson, which is what used to happen, the teachers and the teaching assistants are going around and they're marking as the children are completing the questions. And older up, as we get older into the school years and the juniors, the children actually mark the work themselves. So we'll let the children do 4 or 5 questions, then we'll give them the answer sheet so that they can see how well they've done themselves. If they do have any that need correcting, they can't just write the answer from the answer sheet. We'll ask them to look really carefully and show us their working out. We might also ask them to swap the books as well so that they're actually marking somebody else's piece of work. And that means as well, if they are a bit quicker with answering the questions, they're not having to wait around for a teacher or an adult to come around and mark that work before they can move on. They can move on at their own pace as well. And again, it's that responsibility for their own learning. So we do have some other formative assessment strategies which complement our feedback and marking. So for example, our learning partners from September, we have ensured that the children are constantly working in mixed ability pairs. These children are chosen randomly on a Monday. We call it Move Monday, and they are picked out. Lolly sticks are picked out, and you sit with that partner for the week. We also are trying to embed our no hands up, and teachers are using this strategy to ensure that the children, they know that they may be called upon to answer a question. So teachers are randomly selecting children to answer a question, and that means that they can't just sit back and think, if I don't put my hand up, I don't need to do any of the hard thinking. All the children are active learners in our lessons, and the no hands up reinforces that. The impact of these formative assessment strategies for the no hands up, as we've mentioned, is that the children are engaged in the learning, And the random pairing really does avoid that damaging labelling of pupils and provides children with the opportunity of a range of social and cognitive pairings throughout the year. And it's also reflective of real life as well. When they go into the workplace, they won't get to choose where their desk is or who they work with and sit next to. So it's very reflective of what our world is like and links to our school value of my world and me. The random pairings improves children's self-efficacy and their social resilience as well. And again, this is based on educational research. It's not just something that we've seen in school. Lots of other schools have seen the positive impact that this has had, and we are definitely seeing it this year with our children. We're really passionate at BGL at looking after children's mental health and improving their self-efficacy. And as such, we've introduced this year mindfulness lessons, along with a range of strategies to help support and improve our children's mental health and well-being. And this is really vital in order for our formative assessment approaches to work, to develop that resilience and that confidence for your work to go under a visualiser. You need to have a positive outlook and feel happy within yourself and safe within the classroom. So we've really worked incredibly hard on that this year. And our vision for our children is to thrive in the world. And in order to achieve this, they need to have a positive self-efficacy. So I'm going to hand over now to Mrs. Issa, and she's going to talk you through My Happy Mind, which is an approach that we've adopted to help improve children's mental health and their well-being.
Thanks, Mrs. Wilson. So as part of my role in school, PSHE subject needs, also inclusion manager, so it encompasses lots of areas, and one of the things that I'm really pleased to be able to introduce to you today is My Happy Mind, which is an NHS approved platform which lots of schools up and down the country are signing up to. It's on a technological platform, so online lessons, interactive elements, very child friendly, and very much about the child at the centre. So all the things that Mrs. Wilson's just talked about, mental health, children having that resilience to their learning, and promoting that positive self-belief. We really do believe that My Happy Mind is going to support BGL curriculum within that. So the My Happy Mind programme is split within these different sectors. So the children have several modules across the year, including Meet Your Brain, Celebrate, Appreciate, Relate, Engage. These are all done on a half-termly basis, online lessons, lots of work within the session, but the real key to this for My Happy Mind is that it's not just pigeonholed into a lesson. It transcends into every aspect of our school life, the personal development strand, everything that we want for our children here at BGL. It's not just a set lesson, it goes into every aspect, whether they're on the playground, in the dining hall, in an assembly, in the classroom, social relationships. It's the whole picture, the whole child. So again, everything that Mrs. Wilson has said, the research has shown that the My Happy Mind programme, which has been developed with psychologists and NHS professionals and all these other bodies, is that it helps children to feel happier. It helps children to know what to do when they're feeling stressed, and with everything that our children have experienced, especially in the last few years, now more than ever, this is really important. Improves their focus, and of course in school, everything that we're working towards is that achievement, that attainment in class across all their subjects, all their lessons. And the purpose of these lessons is to really teach children those strategies to help them focus. We talk about lots of technical terms. So we talk about the RAS, which is a reticular activating system, and children learning that it's like a sieve and you have to filter out. So if there's a sound on the playground or something going on outside the classroom, that you've got strategies to know how to focus in the moment in your learning. We want children to be really to develop that self-efficacy, to play their part in their learning, and to be goal-orientated individuals who've got their eye on the prize, they know where they're going, the big picture, not just through their school career, but even beyond that. So helping children to know how to set goals for themselves and steps towards achieving those goals.
The whole PSHE programme and everything that we're doing in school is about relationships. So our relationships education, relationships between each other, peer to peer, relationships outside of schools, what do families look like, and healthy relationships, and how to persevere and have that social resilience, because sometimes you don't get on with everyone, and how to manage those conflicts. And again, how to feel great about who they are. So it's very much about child-centred, children really understanding, celebrating diversity, celebrating unique differences that we have in our school community, in our wider community, but also the world, and having that positive self-esteem, so that we give children that platform, just like Mrs. Wilson has mentioned, about celebrating mistakes and having that resilience to their learning, so they can really push themselves. I've talked about this a little bit, but just to really reinforce that it's not a subject that just sits within itself. It's not, we're doing My Happy Mind and Switch Off, and now it's maths. It's a thread that goes into every aspect of school life. Whether children are walking down the corridor, whether we're greeting them in the morning, every aspect of school life is about this personal development. And within that, teachers are also involved in the My Happy Mind programme. So the children have got their My Happy Mind lessons, and we've got our My Happy Mind lessons as well. So the whole school community involved. And what does this look like in our school? So I've mentioned the modules, but there's a little video here which will give you a snapshot of the My Happy Mind programme. This video is more for the younger learners. The My Happy Mind programme has bespoke lessons for each year group that are suited to the maturity and the appropriate level for the different learners. So this is a younger version, but just to give you a little flavour of what it's like.
Our brains are totally amazing. And it's easy to forget just how much they help us with. There isn't much that we do that our brain isn't involved in. But how do they work? I'd like to introduce you to Team Hack, who can really help us understand exactly how our brains work. Let's meet Team Hack. The H stands for hippocampus. This is where our memories get stored. Think of it as a giant scrapbook. The A stands for amygdala. This is the part of the brain that is always trying to keep us safe. And the P stands for the prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain helps us to make good decisions and choices. Just like with any team, we want Team HAP to work together. This way they can all talk to each other, and we can make good decisions and be our best selves. But sometimes, if we're feeling sad, scared or worried, Team HAP stops working together. This happens because our amygdala takes control of our brain to try and keep us safe. And because our amygdala is so busy doing this, our hippocampus and prefrontal cortex go to sleep. Our amygdala will try to keep us safe by either fighting, flighting, or freezing. This is the same reaction that our brains have had for thousands of years. So how do we calm our amygdala down so we can make a good choice again and be our best selves? Well, the only way to do this is to wake up the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. And the only way to do that is to do some happy breathing. This allows those parts of our brains to wake up and for us to feel calm again. Why not try some happy breathing exercises now? We have lots in store for you.
Just a little flavour there, but speaking with my class teacher hat on, I really can see the benefits for our children. They are using the terminology hippocampus, prefrontal cortex. They use it within the lesson. Some of my children made me chuckle this morning because they're calling their amygdala Miggy, and I did hear, calm down Miggy, and they really are understanding that their amygdala, their guard dog, it's trying to warn them. Something's a bit tricky, my work's a bit hard, and one of my children said, calm down Miggy, and they're trying to switch on their prefrontal cortex, use the hippocampus, and we use lots of these visuals Mrs Wilson does it in Assembly Hall School, and the class teachers mirror that in classes. And again, because we're using the same programme through each year group as children move from class to class, the visuals, the language, it's the same across, and children just keep building on their knowledge with that. So brain breaks, you heard there in the video about this mindful breathing. We use brain breaks in class for children to practice this mindful breathing, and we aim to use them 3 times a day or sometimes more. So I'm year 6, so it's a little bit different, but the children do sometimes say, Miss, shall we have a brain break? When things are getting tricky, challenging, say, yeah, right, lights off, let's have a brain break. And the idea is that the children are introduced to these breathing exercises, that it becomes an automatic default setting in their brain. So if we practice these brain breaks at a time when the children are not in that heightened state, or the amygdala, the cortisol is not flooding their brain, that when they are in that state, it becomes an automatic setting. I need to do my breathing. The children in class, it's hopefully you'll see a brain break when you go into classes. They really do engage with it well, and I can see the impact once we've had that brain break. Get the lights back on, let's tackle it again, have a fresh start. And the brain break follows a set script. Again, the benefits of this is that the children experience the same script through different year groups, the continuity with different adults, and the same script, so that it follows as such, and you'll have a little taster of this in classes. So it would start with, I invite you to sit down in an upright, comfortable position, and so on. In some of the year groups, upper school and lower down, in fact now, the children are becoming so familiar with the script that we can call upon a child, Lola, do you want to lead the brain break today? And the children will come to the front and use the script and lead the brain break with the whole class. So really developing those independent learning skills for our children. We also have mindfulness boxes, baskets in class. And the idea is for children, again, to be those, to develop that self-efficacy, to play their part in their own learning journey. If somebody's struggling with something, we want them to have the toolkit, the strategies to know how to manage that. Not for an adult to come and say, do you need some help? But for the child to come and to think to themselves, I need some help with this. I'm going to take myself to the mindfulness box. We've got lots of sensory toys in there, for want of a better word, mindfulness sensory seeing, so they've got some lovely amygdala bottles, which the children did bring home. In fact, was it at the start of the year? I can't quite remember when we did that. So they might shake an amygdala bottle and watch the glitter in the water bottle. There's some Play-Doh, they might have a little play with that. And the idea is that the children have a sensory downtime, a sensory break, to then allow their brains, the cortisol, to flood back down, to allow the prefrontal cortex, hippocampus, to get back into action, and then take themselves back to the learning. And I've seen this in class. So I think the first few days, and we were kind of prepared for the novelty factor, and every 2 minutes, and I need a break. But now that the children are settled into it, they use them very effectively. They go across when they need it, they have a little time out, they come back to the learning, and it's all about that independent learner. And the children, really, we do see the benefits for the children. So I think that was it. Yeah, thank you very much, Mrs Easter. And just to touch upon something that Mrs Easter has said about the children taking the responsibility for the brain breaks, it gives the opportunity for staff to actually join in with that brain break and be that role model. And also, it's important that the children are happy, but my staff are happy as well when they come to work. And it's just as important that us as adults take that chance to have those brain breaks and just have that moment in the rush of the day, just to reflect, and like Mrs Easter has said, get that cortisol out of our brain and flood it with that dopamine and that oxygen, because that's how we learn best. That's when we're at our optimum, so that we can be the very best version of ourselves. So I will open up to any questions. If you do have some questions, I'm more than happy to answer them now. Or if you'd like to find me, I'm going to be going up and down into the classes. So please come and find me and ask any questions that you would like to ask. or feel free to ask the class teachers as well. You're more than happy, more than welcome now to go into classes with your children. If you've got more than one child, then please just wander in and out as you would like. The bell will go at about 5 to 3, and that's the indication that we just need to get the children ready for home time. So if I could just ask all parents at 5 to 3 to exit through the playground door and just wait on the school playground, then that just gives the teachers a chance to get the coats and bags ready, and then we can get them sent out to you for the end of the day. So like Mrs. Easter said, if you're ready, you go down to class. They're really looking forward to sharing a brain break with you, and the